friends and fellow VEDSies, and welcome to day 3, which is also the new installment of 2022 in review, because I have no excuse to not get it out at the beginning of the month if I'm filming something every day of the month. We're going to be looking at what I saw and listened to in July and August, so let's get started. The first thing I saw was Hamlet at the Cleveland Shakespeare Festival. I went out to the James Garfield Museum and saw the production there. They toured all over different parks and venues in the area and put on free Shakespeare and similar classical plays. It's a great theater with a lot of people that I know and have worked with and admire, and they're really great at what they do. And Hamlet was no exception. It was a really nice production. And you might be thinking to yourself, Tessa, your whole thing in theater is musicals and Shakespeare. How the fuck have you not seen Hamlet? It just... There's not been a lot of productions around here lately of Hamlet. And truth be told, when I read it a few years ago for a class, I didn't vibe with it. Not that it's bad, I don't know. Thematically, it isn't anything that has particularly ever caught my interest. I'm not much of a revenge person, save for Inigo Montoya, and I don't know. I haven't fallen in love with it the way I have with so many other Shakespeare shows, and that is a bummer because I know that it's so many people's favorite, and that has nothing to do with the Cleveland Shakespeare folks. I mean, Dustin Welch, I love that man. He's so smart and so knowledgeable, and I've worked with him in the past and it's great. The cast was wonderful. I just don't think Hamlet is my show. And yet, like, less than a week later, I saw another Hamlet-related show. Several friends of mine from school are part of Frantic Theater Company, which is a new emerging theater company around here, and they put on Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard. I didn't know what to expect from this. I didn't know how tied into Hamlet it was going to be. I didn't know what the style was. It's one of those plays that people talk about a lot, but I don't know. I just didn't know what to expect. The only Tom Stoppard I was familiar with was Rock and Roll, and oh my god, this is about as different from Rock and Roll as it could be. Because this is surreal as fuck. To the best of my understanding, it's like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are created for the sake of the plot of Hamlet, and they don't have memories of anything that isn't explicitly told to them by characters in Hamlet, and so it's them trying to figure out who they are, who everyone else around them is, what they're supposed to be doing, and then just faking their way through the entire show. It's a very strange script, both because of the concept and just because of how repetitive it is. There's so many scenes that are more or less the same thing over and over and over again, and there's a lot of parts that mean nothing, and that's kind of the point of the show, but as someone who doesn't particularly love surrealism or Hamlet, there was definitely a bit of a barrier there. The saving grace was how well it was done. I have to shout out Casey and Alex and how fucking good they were in those roles. I mean, they made utter nonsense sound like it meant something, and there were so many parts of it where I was like, it sounds like you know what you're doing, so I'll trust you on this. I'm gonna follow you here. I don't know what's happening, but you seem to. And so much of the show was just the two of them having these nonsense cyclical arguments and doing a really good job of it, and it was very entertaining, even if it made no fucking sense. And yes, I understand that's the point of surrealism, but like, I don't know, some styles work better for some folks than others, and I like things that can be fantastical, but I like there to be something a little more there than what Rosencrantz and Guildenstern had. Although I certainly liked it more than the last Tom Stoppard play I saw. Completely changing gears, the rest of July was dedicated to baking shows, because of course it was dedicated to baking shows. The first one we completed, my mom, my brother, and I, was Candyland, which happened last year, hosted by Kristen Chenoweth on the Food Network. The set design was easily the best part of the show because they full-on Willy Wonka'd it, everything was edible. Like, it was mind-bogglingly gorgeous to look at that set. And you really couldn't have gotten a better host for this than Kristen Chenoweth. She has so much of that sugar plum fairy bubblegum princess sort of aesthetic to her that putting her in these crazy outfits and having her wander around the contestants talking about how if they don't succeed they're going to have to go to Lord Licorice, and that was a great choice. Artie and Nacho as judges were really good judges for this type of show. Love Nacho, so I'm always going to be excited to see him. The main problem I had was with the formatting of the show. See, it's trying to do the old Wars style show, Halloween Wars, Christmas Wars, all of those different shows that were very popular for a long time. But the thing is, those were always really intense in the drama and infighting department. It was very much in the realm of the high drama reality TV of the 2010s, and this was not that, which is fine. It's fine that they're not screaming at each other. It's fine that they're not being petty. But those original shows dedicated a lot of time to that part of the show. It was a major draw. But when you take that out, you need to put something back in so it doesn't drag, and Candyland definitely dragged a bit in places. I don't know what you could have done without forcing them into fights. Maybe a small mini challenge at the beginning and then the big challenge. Maybe adding more of the characters of Candyland, like make it more immersive and role-playing-y. Maybe that would have done something. I don't know what they could have done to replace it. I just know that I felt it missing, and I kept wanting them to start screaming at each other just because I needed something else. But it wasn't bad, it was just a little on the slow side. The other show that we watched was Wall of Bakers, which is a Canadian baking competition in which contestants have to bake for a panel of top pastry chefs from Canada who critique them and give them advice, and they win money at the end. It's pretty standard. The main draw is that they've got a 12-person panel of celebrity pastry chefs. That's the main thing that makes this special. I'd put it somewhere between like Great British Baking and Spring Baking Championship, where it has the really intense competitive nature to it, but the judges are very kind and offer very constructive feedback and are very sweet with them, and it's very playful. So that part is fun. I really liked some of these judges and getting to see them regularly. It was nice to have the panel because then it could be a lot more objective in the sense of it's not just the same three people where if you make sure to put their favorite thing in there, you know you're gonna get the win. Honestly, the worst part of it is the host, and it's not even so much him. He's fine, but they clearly had a couple good lines that they wanted to become iconic, and so he kept saying the same things over and over and over, and it's like, yes, we know this is episode 9. We understand what's happening here. Please just have a different way of phrasing things. And that got old pretty quickly, but that's small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. It was a cute show. I probably would have been more invested if I had heard of more of the judges, but it was nice. If you like baking shows and have pretty much run out of them, I think it's worth a watch. And now I have to talk about Zombies 2 and 3. So for context, I did not watch these on my own. I was babysitting for an 8-year-old boy who I babysat before. He loves DComs so much, so he forced me to watch Zombies 2 and 3. He knew I hadn't seen Zombies 1. He said it didn't matter. He's probably right. I can't imagine that much happened in the first one that really would have changed how I felt about these movies. Quick bullet points. I hate how pastel it looks. I know it's intentional. That doesn't mean I have to like it. I fucking hate Zed. He's a terrible boyfriend. He's a terrible person. I don't know what they were doing making this guy a main character. He fucking sucks. He lies to his girlfriend all the time. He's overprotective. He's just like, why can't these other minorities act like humans like I've learned to do? That will fix the oppression. Like, literally, I'm not kidding. That's an actual, there's an entire musical number in the second one dedicated to that. Zed is endlessly frustrating. I cannot remember any of the songs. I've got like one hook from one of them, and I couldn't remember them when I first watched them, like, at all. All of them were so forgettable. There's a lot of real-world parallels that are very odd in these movies. Like, at one point, Zed is running for class president, and because he's a zombie, and he knows people are scared of zombies, he, like, makes himself look more alive in his posters, and they call it, like, life washing. It's very strange. There's so much of that sort of stuff in there, and I don't know how to feel about it. That needs, like, its own 90-minute video to analyze, because it's just so weird. I will say one thing that I really did appreciate was that they had a non-binary character. That was really cool. They were an alien, but still. It actually took me a moment to realize, because when Grayson said that all the aliens' names and said that they were his favorite character, I thought he just made a grammar mistake until I realized that there was a alien who used she, her pronouns, an alien that used he, him pronouns, and an alien that used they, them pronouns, which was wild, and I did not expect that in a fucking DCOM, but it was really nice at the same time. I was really happy that that was happening, and they were able to be romantically interested in guys and girls, and it really wasn't made a big deal of. The biggest problem was that the guy was somebody else's boyfriend, not that they were interested in somebody they weren't supposed to be. It was really nice, honestly. The highlight of both of the movies was Bucky. Bucky is the main girl's cousin who's like the captain of the cheer squad and then the president of the school. Imagine, if you will, Amber Von Tussle from Hairspray, Ryan from High School Musical, and Jackson, the older brother from Hannah Montana, mashed into one character. That is Bucky. I love Bucky so much. There's a joke where Bucky thinks that the aliens have come to clone him to make more Buckys, and I want that movie that's just like 7 Buckys. I love him. He's the funniest thing in any part of the movies. He's the highlight. I love Bucky. But yeah, they're mediocre. It feels weird to judge DComs because, like, the production value is obviously better than the ones from when I was younger, but at the same time I don't like the aesthetic of the production, and I feel like it works better with a lower budget, if that makes sense. When it's too polished, it feels forced more than it already is. But I don't know, maybe that is the nostalgia goggles, and that it is a good thing that they look like they have more money and effort put into them. I just think they look a little over-polished. While we were moving my mom and brother into the new house, there was a day that I was just painting the kitchen island. So my dad set up his phone to the Bluetooth speaker in the kitchen so that I could listen to music that wouldn't irritate him. So for the first time in like over a decade, I listened to Blue Light, Red Light, a Harry Connick Jr. album that my brother was obsessed with when we were little. He has always been a jazz fan, and so this album was on so much when we were growing up. Getting to revisit it years later was really nice. I found that the songs that I had liked as a kid, I liked even more. I still think my favorite is You Didn't Know Me When, because it is nonsense. But With Imagination I'll Get There is also pretty high up. I also think I was better able to appreciate songs like Jill because I am technically an adult now. I will say that the songs are very long and you kind of forget which one you're listening to in the instrumental after a while, but it's not bad. None of them are bad songs. There's definitely ones that are better and worse, and it's all pretty subjective to taste, but if you like jazz, especially big band jazz, I think that it's worth a listen to. And this one final thing that I watched in August, but you're gonna have to wait till tomorrow to learn about what is the world's worst musical. Alright, my friends and fellow VEDSies, I'll see you tomorrow.